That was the sound of terror as what was supposed to be a fun night out ended in the death of Jamea Harris, a 23-year-old working mother. Jamea was out for the night with her boyfriend Cedric Johnson and cousin Asia Humphrey in the popular nightlife district known as the Strip. As the investigation is still unfolding, here's what we know so far. The fatal shooting involves former University of Alabama College ballplayer Darius Miles, his childhood friend Michael Davis, and Cedric Johnson, who is also Harris's son's father. But at a February 21st hearing related to the shooting, prosecutors and defense attorneys were presenting conflicting interpretations of the accounts that led up to the fatal shooting. It was confirmed that both parties in the early morning hours of January 15, 2023 were at the bar 1225 in the district area of the city. The gunshot also erupted after a minor altercation took place on a nearby street. Harris was struck in the head, dying instantly. According to court testimonies, after 1 a.m., Harris and Humphrey moved the vehicle to the corner of University and Grace Street intersection waiting for Harris's boyfriend, who went to get food nearby. Around 1:02 a.m., Darius Miles, who was with Davis and Bradley still in the bar awaiting a ride from fellow teammate Brandon Miller, who is also a University of Alabama ballplayer and projected NBA lottery draft pick. Miles texted Miller asking how long was he gonna be. By 1:36 a.m., the trio leave 1225 and cross the street. Miles walked ahead of his group, walking past Harris's Jeep. But Davis stops at the Jeep and begins dancing near it. According to court testimony by Davis, he was drunk off of tequila during the interaction. Johnson told investigators that his first interaction with Davis was him telling Davis that Harris was his girl and to move along. He further states to investigators that Davis replied that he didn't know him or what he could do to him. Humphrey gives testimony that she heard Johnson reply back, "Brother, why don't you be good?" as Davis replies he didn't want Johnson's girl. By this point, Miles returns to the Jeep as Jaden Bradley, another ballplayer who accompanied Davis and Miles that night, states he heard Miles trying to calm Davis and trying to get Davis to leave. Humphrey testifies she never heard Miles say anything to anyone in the Jeep. Investigators further state that at some point during the interaction, Harris or Humphrey passed something to Johnson, who was sitting in the back of the Jeep. Johnson advised it was food, but Miles states he saw a gun. 2 minutes later, at 1:38 a.m., Miles texted Miller asking for him to bring his gun that some guys were faking. The meaning of faking used here, according to Miles's lawyer, was that the term meant someone was threatening Miles. She stated she'd looked up a reference to verify this claim. "I would be interested in where she found that definition." It sounds like from the word being used in this context, Miles did see a gun involved and wanted to match fire with fire. Or, the altercation reached a level where threats were being thrown and Miles wanted to show Johnson they were just as serious. But it's unclear if Miller even got the text before he was back in the area to pick up the trio. An unrelated fight broke out in the area, making the traffic move slower through University and Grace. Harris's Jeep awaited in a side alley behind the houndstooth for another car to turn. By 1:43 a.m., Miller's car pulled up behind Bradley's car. Miles gets out of Bradley's car. It's reported the Jeep then was able to make a left on Grace Street away from the unrelated fight, but turned around, lights still off, pulling up behind Miller's car. Miles walks back to Miller's car, opens the right side passenger door, appearing to be looking for something in the car. A short exchange of words happened between Miles and Davis about the location of the gun. The heat is in the hat, and then it's assumed, as it's not stated, that Davis asked Miles was there one in the head, meaning if the gun was loaded. It's important to note that Brandon Miller never left his vehicle, never touched the gun, and didn't have any knowledge of anything illegal taking place. He's cooperated with the police from the start of the investigation. Miles then walked over to his girlfriend and a friend, moving them into an alley behind a parking lot. He stopped quickly at Miller and Bradley's cars before walking down Grace Street. His hood went up as he walked past the Jeep's passenger side. He took off the hood once he'd passed the car. At 1:45 a.m., Davis walked back down Grace Street to the Jeep, which was still sitting behind Miller's car, to the driver's side and opened fire.
Brandon Culpepper, Tuscaloosa police investigator, testified at the February 21st hearing that he heard Davis fired the first shot into the Jeep, and that Johnson returned fire due to shots being fired by Davis into the vehicle.
Video shows Davis ran across Gray Street and into the alley behind the parking lot, firing his gun into the Jeep. Bullets also hit the windshield of Miller's car, where an unnamed passenger was located. Davis ran away from the chaotic scene he'd caused as Johnson turned left, making his way to a Walk of Champions in front of Bryant-Denny Stadium, where he spotted police. Jamea Harris was dead in the front seat of her car.
In a court testimony, Miles and his girlfriend in her car picked up Davis at an intersection and drove back to the University Downs apartments, where 911 was called. It was reported Davis was shot. When authorities arrived at the scene, Miles told police he was in his apartment when his friend showed up with a gunshot wound, claiming he didn't know how his friend got injured.
At this point, no one really knows what happened from Johnson's point of view, as he didn't appear at the February 21st court hearing. Police testified that Miles knew what Davis was going to do, and it had been planned out. As I stated earlier, the circumstances in which Jamea Harris was murdered is still being investigated. A striking fact after the fact is that Johnson didn't show up to give his testimony of the account. I wonder why wouldn't he show up to shed more light on what happened to bring justice to Jamea, her family, most of all the son he shares with her. It seems like there is more to the story of what happened that led up to the shooting death of Jamea Harris.
This situation is truly heartbreaking. It took only 8 minutes and a few words being thrown back and forth before someone's ego was too hurt to go on without resorting to taking a life. Miles and Davis are currently being held without bail and are facing life without the possibility of parole. This is a cautionary tale for young folks out there. Learn to pick and choose your battles. Sometimes walking away is better than a bad stand. May Jamea Harris rest in peace. Like intriguing cases like this one? Hit the like button and subscribe for more cases. Thanks for watching.